freezes all 45 tons of Burkina Faso's gold reserves held in the Bank of England vaults. Ibrahim Traore had just lost $2.8 billion with a single court ruling. It's Sergio, the news reached Ibrahim while he was visiting a rural school in northern Burkina Faso. His aide, visibly shaken, handed him the encrypted phone. On the other end, Foreign Minister Olivia Balima spoke in a voice barely containing panic. President, the British High Court just ruled in favor of Next Gold Corporation. They've frozen all our gold reserves in London. Ibrahim stepped away from the celebrating children who had been showing him their new solar-powered tablets. His mind raced through the implications. That gold, 45 tons accumulated over decades, represented Burkina Faso's economic sovereignty. It backed their new currency, secured international loans, and most critically, funded the revolutionary development programs transforming the nation. On what grounds? Ibrahim asked, though he suspected the answer. Next Gold claims we illegally nationalized their mines in 2019. They're demanding $8 billion in compensation or the gold remains frozen indefinitely. Ibrahim felt his jaw clench. Next Gold UAEuro British-Canadian mining consortium that had extracted gold from Burkina Faso for 40 years, paying less than 2% royalties while poisoning rivers and exploiting workers. When he expelled them, they'd threatened revenge. Now, using British courts and colonial-era laws, they were stealing Burkina Faso's wealth again, just more sophisticatedly. But here's what the British court didn't know. Ibrahim had been preparing for this exact scenario. 6 months earlier, his intelligence service had intercepted communications between Next Gold executives and British Foreign Office officials. The messages were explicit. The legal route through London courts is our nuclear option. No African nation has ever recovered gold frozen by British courts. Traore will have to capitulate or watch his economy collapse. That intelligence had triggered what Ibrahim privately called Operation Midas Revenge, a complex financial strategy that would turn Britain's colonial-era financial weapons against them. Schedule an emergency cabinet meeting in 2 hours, Ibrahim told Balima, and contact our friends in Beijing, Moscow, and Dubai. Tell them Scenario 7 is now active. As his convoy rushed back to Ouagadougou, Ibrahim's phone buzzed with international reactions. The Financial Times headline was already live. Bank of England freezes African gold in unprecedented legal victory for mining companies. The British pound had strengthened by 2% within minutes of the announcement. The world thought they were witnessing another African nation brought to heel by Western financial power. They had no idea they were about to witness the greatest financial counterstrike house. The faces around the table showed anger, fear, and disbelief as Finance Minister Joseph Tapsoba presented the full scope of the crisis. The frozen gold represents 67% of our foreign reserves, he explained. His usual calm shattered. Without it, we can't defend our currency, we can't service international debts, and we can't pay for critical imports. The British know this. They're trying to force regime change through financial strangulation. Defense Minister Samuel Kafando slammed his fist on the table. This is an act of war. They're stealing our gold in broad daylight. It's worse than that, Ibrahim said quietly. Look at the timing. Next week, we were planning to announce the African Gold Standard Douai new reserve currency backed by African gold, independent of dollars and euros. This freeze isn't just about Next Gold's claims, it's about stopping African financial independence. The room fell silent as the full implications sank in. The African Gold Standard had been secretly developed by 8 African nations over 2 years. It would have ended their dependence on Western currencies, creating a genuine alternative to dollar hegemony. The gold in London was meant to be part of the initial reserves. So what do we do? Asked Foreign Minister Balima. International law is on their side. British courts have been seizing African assets for centuries. Ibrahim stood, walking to a wall map showing global financial centers. International law is what the powerful say it is. But power isn't just about law, it's about leverage. And Britain has more vulnerabilities than they realize. What followed next would be studied in financial warfare courses for decades. Ibrahim revealed Operation Midas Revenge in full. For 6 months, Burkina Faso had been quietly building leverage against Britain. First, they had accumulated detailed intelligence on illegal British financial activities in Africa, money laundering, tax evasion, and sanctions busting by major British banks. The evidence, if released, would trigger investigations costing hundreds of billions in fines. Second, they had coordinated with other African nations to prepare for simultaneous action. Nigeria, Ghana, Kenya, and South Africa were ready to freeze British assets in their territories, worth over £500 billion. Third, and most devastatingly, they had discovered that several British pension funds had illegally invested in conflict minerals from the Democratic Republic of Congo. Exposure would collapse these funds, affecting millions of British retirees. They want to play colonial games, Ibrahim said. Let's show them the colonies can play back. Within an hour, Phase 1 began. Burkina Faso's cyber warfare unit, trained by Russian specialists, launched Project Mirror, not attacking British systems, but simply collecting and organizing publicly available information about British financial crimes in Africa. The data was packaged into an AI searchable database called the Colonial Ledger. At midnight, Ouagadougou time, the Colonial Ledger went live on multiple Mirror sites impossible to take down. Within hours, investigative journalists worldwide were finding stories of British banks laundering money for arms dealers, mining companies bribing officials, and hedge funds manipulating African currencies. The British government woke up to a public relations nightmare. By morning London time, #Colonial Ledger was trending globally. The Guardian's headline read, "Exposed British Bank's Dirty Secrets in Africa." The BBC tried to downplay the revelations, but social media was ablaze with documented evidence of financial crimes. But Ibrahim was just getting started. At 10 a.m. London time, he held a press conference that would shake global markets. Standing before a display showing the Bank of England's gold vaults, Ibrahim spoke calmly, "Britain has stolen our gold using courts built on colonial law. This is not new. For centuries, they've used legal systems they created to legitimize theft. But today, we begin the process of reclaiming not just our gold, but justice itself." He announced that Burkina Faso was filing criminal charges against Nextgold executives for environmental genocide, the systematic poisoning of water sources that had killed thousands. The evidence included internal emails where executives joked about acceptable African casualties. More shocking was his next announcement: "We are also beginning legal proceedings to reclaim the 743 tons of gold extracted from Burkina Faso under colonial rule between 1896 and 1960. Our historians and economists have calculated its current..." Within minutes of Ibrahim's announcement,